I poured a bucket of water into a dry well and got infinite water. I scattered seeds on flat ground and immediately got mountains of grain. A boy passing by saw this and thought I was a god. He knelt and begged me to save his mother. Seeing his devotion, I told him to prepare a cow. After all, milk in this world can clear all negative effects. Thank you, great immortal brother. I'll find a cow. Do you need anything else? Just call me Brother Chun. Do you have string at home? I want to make a fishing rod. No problem. But Brother Chun, don't worry if there are no fish there. I can catch them. After saying goodbye to me, Kevin ran home, but he was brutally beaten by his father, Daniel. You brat, you don't help with work and just run around aimlessly. Don't you know your mother is gravely ill? Kevin fell to the ground and shouted quickly, don't hit me. Father, I found a way to save mother. The surrounding air froze instantly. Who told you that? Brother Chun, who lives in the forest. He said as long as we have a cow, there's a way to cure mother's illness. Unexpectedly, Daniel didn't get excited. Instead, he crouched down with a look of deep sadness. It's just that your father isn't capable of curing her. Now I can't even protect you. How could someone live in the desolate mountains during a famine? He thought Kevin must have encountered a monster. Kevin was anxious, but didn't know how to explain it. Father, Brother Chun is a good person. He only asked me to bring a roll of string. But Daniel clearly wasn't listening. Instead, he picked up the only 2 chickens left in the house and spoke firmly. You're young and have a long way to go. I'll go see that monster myself. In the future, the family depends on you. Meanwhile, I just woke up on a wooden board. I slept terribly. I wonder when I'll get sheep. Covering myself in wool would be much more comfortable. I walked to the door and stepped on the pressure plate. The wooden door opened automatically. The mechanism is connected to the tree I planted a few days ago. It's already grown into a large tree. I rubbed my hands and stretched them into the air. A stone axe instantly appeared in my grip. I started working, preparing to cut trees, one block of wood after another. They were absorbed directly into my inventory. Just then, Kevin's voice came from the distance. Brother Chun, I brought the line you wanted. Kevin scratched his head shyly. My father didn't trust me, so he came too. At that moment, Daniel stared with wide eyes at the side of the house. It was a field of golden wheat. How could there be ripe wheat at this time of year? Although he was terrified, he pretended to be calm and offered the chickens with both hands. Young Master Chun, this humble man hopes to trade his life for his son's. These 2 chickens are an apology for disturbing your retreat. I'm a bit confused. Didn't you say you wanted me to help save your mother? Why did I suddenly become a big villain? Kevin rushed forward to explain. My father thinks you're a man-eating monster. No matter what I say, he doesn't believe me. He says I'm under your spell. Hearing this, I felt caught between laughter and tears. Uncle Daniel, don't worry. I have no bad intentions toward Kevin. My promise won't change. Just bring your wife and the cow to my house. Seeing that Daniel still looked terrified, I suddenly had an idea. First, I'll prove I'm not a villain. Why did you give me these 2 chickens? Brother Chun, why are you breaking the wheat? Kevin saw me enter the field and break 2 wheat plants that hadn't finished growing. He felt very distressed. It's fine, it's fine. My wheat seeds have other uses. Under Daniel's shocked gaze, the wheat seeds on the ground flew into my palm. Then I saw the 2 chickens suddenly get excited, staring at the seeds in my hand. I smiled confidently and silently activated the growth effect for these 2 chickens. The next second, Daniel's pupils dilated. He shouted in shock. How is this possible? Kevin was also so excited he couldn't speak. I saw the 2 chickens huddle together. In less than 3 seconds, a fuzzy little chick suddenly appeared. How about it, Uncle Daniel? Monsters can't do this kind of thing, right? Daniel's brain had already frozen. You have to understand, these were 2 hens, yet they just produced a chick. And that chick seemed to appear out of thin air. What? There was no egg-laying process. This is something only gods can do. It's over, it's over. I actually took a god for a monster. Daniel's legs went weak, and he fell to his knees with a thud. He actually started bowing. This little one didn't know an immortal had descended to the world and mistook you for a monster. Please, do not blame me. I quickly reached out to help Daniel up. No. Uncle Daniel, don't be like that. I'm no immortal, just a simple traveler. However, Daniel obviously didn't know what that meant and remained kneeling, turning to scold Kevin. Brat, kneel before the immortal. I was speechless. I quickly changed the subject. When can you bring your wife? Since she's seriously ill, it's better not to delay. Tomorrow? Does Immortal Chun have time? Only the village chief has a cow. I'll ask if he'll sell it to me. Can I do that? Then I'll come tomorrow. And don't call me Immortal Chun, call me Steve. All right, Immortal Chun. I mean Steve. I looked at Daniel's respectful expression, feeling quite helpless. But there's no need to buy the cow, just borrow it. My method won't hurt the animal. Yes, great Immortal. Suddenly, Daniel got nervous. He began to speak hesitantly. This humble man has another request. It's not right for the Immortal to live alone in the deep mountains. I wonder if you'd allow Kevin to stay and serve you. Hearing these words, Kevin knelt down immediately. Kevin stayed right in front of me. I am willing to stay as your servant. I frowned and began to think. Now that I have the abilities of this world, I don't worry about food or water, but I'm restricted by my current level. It's not convenient to trade with villagers from this small hill. I should help these poor people. So I smiled and said, forget the servant thing. But if I need help, Kevin will be my little brother and help me with errands. Thank you so much, Immortal Chun. This humble man will withdraw now, Daniel said, clasping his hands and backing away slowly until he was out of sight. Daniel finally breathed a sigh of relief, and then the corners of his mouth wouldn't stop rising. His wife would be saved. His son even recognized an immortal as his big brother. What joy! The two walked happily toward their house, chatting and laughing. I put the ball of string and the wooden stick on the workbench, and a fishing rod was synthesized just like that. I cast the line directly into the small pond. Before long, the rod jerked. There was movement. Haha, I caught one. I pulled in the rod. It was a bluefin tuna. Sure enough, as long as there's water, you can fish. Now I'm free to eat fish whenever I want. Maybe, if I'm lucky, I can even fish up an enchanted book. I cast the line over and over, enjoying it endlessly. Meanwhile, Daniel ran into another problem. You're saying you met an immortal in the forest and need a cow to cure an illness? The village chief, Silas, scratched his beard, confused. He clearly didn't believe a word of it. Daniel said, "Yes, Chief, you have the only cow in the whole village. I beg you to lend it to me for a day. If it doesn't work, I'll buy it. I'll trade my land for it." "Oh, Daniel, it's not that I don't want to lend it. I'm worried you're being tricked." Silas sighed. If Daniel wanted to sell the cow for money to hire a real doctor, he would have given it to him without hesitation. But Daniel actually wanted to use the cow for a god to cure his wife. How is that possible? "Fine, Daniel, I can lend you the cow, but tomorrow I'm going with you." After Daniel left, Silas's face darkened. He immediately changed his plans. "That's the situation, do you understand?" A burly man nodded, rolled up his sleeves, and showed a face full of anger. "I don't know where that nobody came from, but he's running to our village to scam people. You should go early and arrest that person first." Silas nodded. The two worked out a plan and waited for the next morning. They planned to arrest that detestable scammer. Unexpectedly, that night, Daniel's wife fell gravely ill. A constant knocking sounded at the door. The village chief opened it and found Kevin there. "Why did you come so early? It's not even dawn." Kevin was anxious to arrive. "My mother's forehead is burning. She's talking nonsense. My father told me to call you. We're going to Brother Chin now." The village chief immediately lost all sleep. "No, we have to find a doctor quickly." "Chief, you don't need a doctor, we need the cow. Is it really time for this? How do you still believe in that scammer? Your father has always been strange, but how are you also delusional? Brother Chin can really do it. Please, Grandpa Chief, just lend us the cow." Seeing that Kevin was about to kneel, Silas couldn't say anything else and could only follow Kevin down the path. "There he is, great. Brother Chin isn't asleep. It looks like he's still fishing." Fishing? Silas was full of questions. The nearby rivers were dried up. Where would there be any fish? I looked in the direction Kevin was pointing. I was sitting in front of the small pond fishing, but clearly, there wasn't a single fish in that puddle. I knew he was a scammer. A feeling of helplessness and loss rose in Silas's heart. This matter was hopeless. Just then, something strange happened. I heard a splash. A fish half a meter long was pulled out of the water. Then it transformed into a ray of golden light and went directly into my inventory. It vanished into thin air. Silas saw this miraculous scene, his heart pounding. Could there really be immortals in this world? "Brother Chun, I brought the cow. Please, save my mother." Hearing Kevin's voice, I realized the woman's condition must have suddenly worsened. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come so early. "Quick, bring the cow." As I said that, I poured out all the water from the bucket, preparing to hide the source. "How can you just pour out such clean water?" Silas was heartbroken watching it. I saw Silas's expression, but saving a life was crucial now. I took the empty bucket and silently commanded the cow to produce extreme milk. Milky white liquid gushed from the bottom. It instantly filled the entire iron bucket. Silas was stunned. His cow was a dry, barren animal. I scooped a bowl of milk from the bucket with a wooden spoon. "All right, now your mother just needs to drink this bowl of milk. It can probably cure the illness." Hearing this, Daniel gently placed his wife, Elena, on the ground and carefully brought the milk to her lips. The milk flowed automatically into her mouth. Something magical happened. Elena's face visibly flushed with color. In the end, her face looked even healthier and rosier than Daniel's. As she fully recovered, the exhaustion of not sleeping for several nights washed over her. She struggled to look at me. With gratitude, she said, "Thank you, Master Chun. It's a small matter. No need to be polite." I showed a satisfied smile. The next second, Elena tilted her head and fell fast asleep. "Honey, what's wrong?" Daniel's face was full of anxiety. "Master Chun, how is my wife now?" "Don't worry, her illness is cured. She's just exhausted and fell asleep." I let out a secret sigh of relief. She was finally saved. Everyone showed joy. Only Silas stared at the puddle with wide eyes. As the village chief, he knew the village's situation better than anyone. A week ago, the groundwater had already dried up. The village well, which used to be bottomless, only had a shallow layer left. These days, it wasn't even enough for daily use, let alone irrigation. Yet this puddle, used arbitrarily by me, actually showed no sign of shrinking. This was too dreamlike. Silas cautiously reached out his hand and dipped it into the water. The coolness of the water covered his wrinkled arm. Without hesitation, he took a handful of water and put it in his mouth. The sweetness of a mountain spring instantly filled his mouth. This was real water that could save lives. Good water for drinking and irrigation. The village crops were saved. At this moment, Silas completely believed the young man before him was a god descended to earth. But how should he speak to a god? "Old man, you are Kevin's grandfather. You're taking me too seriously." Silas turned red with emotion. "This humble servant is not Kevin's grandfather. I am the chief of this village. After saying that, Silas bent his knees and knelt down. This humble servant, Silas, has met the immortal. Why does everyone kneel when they see me? Inevitably, I quickly helped Silas up. Old man, please stand up quickly. I'm just an ordinary younger brother. But Silas still had a look of panic on his face. His body shook like a sieve, and his right leg in particular was trembling violently. It seemed he was suffering from some hidden ailment. Thinking about it, I simply scooped a few more buckets of milk and ordered everyone present to drink it. How do you feel now? I feel like my whole body has become much lighter. Me too, my thigh is fine now. Silas was particularly surprised. As he aged, his leg joints would ache so much in winter that he couldn't walk. He even felt a dull pain whenever he caught a virus. I usually feel so cold in the morning. But now I feel nothing at all. Thank you, Master Chun, for giving me this medicine. Silas didn't want to kneel again, so he clasped his hands in gratitude. It's a small matter, Chief. You don't have to take it so seriously. However, Silas lowered his head even further, hesitated for a moment, and gathered the courage to speak. Master Chun, this humble servant dares to ask you for something. Is it the water problem? In fact, I noticed long ago that the villagers lack water. I originally wanted to wait a day to observe your lives, but I didn't expect the village chief to be the first to mention this matter. This is the priority. This humble servant really has no other choice. It hasn't rained here for 3 months, and there is no water in the fields. I don't dare ask for your fairy water, Master Chun, but I ask that you say a word to the Dragon King. This is exactly what I intend to do next. Follow me. I led the group toward the edge of the village. We were almost at the boundary. I thought to myself about how much experience I'd gained from farming and fishing lately. Now I've reached the village edge. I have reached level 8, and my range of activities has expanded to encompass the entire village. Finally, I walked up to the invisible barrier and stopped. All right, let it be here. First, I'll dig a well. Then I poured 2 buckets of water into it, and an infinite water source was created. Chief, please tell the people of the village. They can come here to fetch water whenever they need. Silas smiled from ear to ear as he watched the water flowing constantly. I still don't understand how he did it, but since it's a god's trick, it doesn't matter. Thank you. It would be strange if he understood. Aren't you coming to our village to see it? Gavin looked a bit disappointed seeing that I was about to head back. I want to go too, but the conditions won't allow it. Could it be that Master Chun is facing some kind of difficulty? Silas also asked cautiously. I reflected for a moment. It's no secret anyway. Better to hide it. So I stepped toward the air wall. At that moment, the surroundings began to shake violently. The sudden earthquake made Silas stumble and nearly fall. Immediately, he looked back at me. It was a scene he would never forget. In the clear sky, a black crack appeared. The marks were twisted like a spiderweb, limitless and constantly growing. Good heavens, have you seen it? The sky is about to fall again. Silas was so terrified that his legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the ground. Master Chun, the sky is going to fall. We know the consequences. Come back quickly. The ancestors really do exist. The image of the world's destruction remained burned into his mind. Finally, he understood the hardships of the world. Why hasn't the ancestors' redemption been seen in the past? There is a difference between the divine and the mortal. Even someone as strong as Master Chun, who came from the heavens, is subject to great restrictions and might even cause the world's destruction. Perhaps Master Chun paid a huge price to come from above. Master Chun truly is a good god. With a shocked heart, Silas arrived at his own front door. But the news his wife told him scared her so much she nearly fainted. Their son grabbed a stick to find her. When he went to find the scammer, Barney coughed repeatedly with anxiety, his back covered in a cold sweat. The bowl in his hand slipped and shattered on the floor. Oh, old man, why are you so careless? Are you hurt? The old woman asked with concern, ignoring everything else. He rushed out the door in a panic. Father, you're out. Look at this stick in my hand. I'll make sure that scammer screams for his mother. Fearing Barney might jump, he slapped the back of his head. Father, why did you hit me? Weren't we going to hit the scammer? The honest, burly man was full of grievances. Rebellious son, you rebellious son. Barney slapped the back of his head twice more. Then he bowed fearfully in the direction where I was standing. Great Spirit, please don't take offense, don't take offense. Seeing that the sky hadn't split open, Barney felt a bit calmer. Forget about this. Later, call all the villagers together. Tell them there is something very important I need to say. At the entrance of Willow Creek Village, the sun was scorching and a group of men stood bare-chested. They crouched on stones with shovels scattered around them. This hellish weather is unbearable. One of the men couldn't help but snap. He stood up and complained to the village chief. I say, Chief, why have you gathered us all here? Someone else spoke up. The people around him nodded eagerly, while Barney sat calmly, took out his pipe, and had a smoke. He slowly exhaled rings of smoke and said, this is big news. Barney sat there while the villagers complained. Chief, why have you gathered us here? He just stroked his goatee. Well, I can't help but reveal a little something. Everyone leaned in closer. What is it? Chief, stop playing games and just tell us. Barney asked them. What is the one thing we are missing most right now? Water. Everyone shouted in unison, crowding excitedly around the village chief. All right, don't get so worked up. Sit back down and wait quietly. Barney endured the spit flying from every direction, wiping the wet marks off his face. Seeing that Barney wouldn't budge, they scattered with a sigh. What else could they do? Wait, after about 10 minutes, seeing that all the villagers had arrived, Barney put away his pipe. Go straight in this direction, walk a bit further, and you're almost there. If you can't wait, go ahead. As soon as Barney finished speaking, several figures rushed forward. It's water. There's really water. Haha, it's so sweet. They ran to the water source, eagerly scooping it up and bringing it to their mouths. Some felt that wasn't enough and even submerged their entire heads. On the other side, Greg asked, completely dumbfounded. Chief, do you mean you've been fishing here ever since we left? Yes, but unfortunately, I'm not catching fish, just useless junk. I yawned out of habit and said, I'm sorry, Chief. My mother is recovering from a serious illness and I couldn't leave her side. I should have come sooner. I felt bad leaving him to fish all alone for such a long time. Greg felt terrible, thinking it was something serious. If I'd known, I would have wanted to help you. But if you'd come sooner, I would have sent you right back to your mother. I rolled my eyes and waved him off. Faking a look of disgust, I said, don't worry about that. Here, try these on. Do they fit? With that, I pulled out a pair of leather boots and handed them to Greg. Chief, you are truly amazing. Greg couldn't help but exclaim. It's the first time I've seen someone fish boots out of the water. I was about to get excited myself. Stop just standing there. What's wrong? Why is your body in such bad shape? What's going on? No, I can't believe it. What is happening? This is very complicated for me. How is this possible? You can test them however you want when you get home. Just put the boots on. Is that okay, Chief? Greg moved from the ground, his face still flushed with excitement. He looked thrilled. What are we doing now? Did you bring a knife? I asked, glancing at the basket on Greg's back. Yes, use that knife to make a cut on your hand. Use enough force to cut the skin. Greg didn't hesitate at all. He sliced into his left hand. Didn't I just sharpen this knife before I left? If it cuts with this easily, why won't it cut me? Seeing that his left hand hadn't changed at all, Greg grabbed the blade and inspected it. How strange. It's not dull, and there are no nicks in the metal. Did I not use enough force? Or could it be the boots the Chief gave me? After all, even the size can change, let alone helping him block the blade. But if it's really these boots, he's wearing them on his feet. How did they block my cut? Greg couldn't understand it. Try again. Just use a bit more force, I said, rubbing my chin. All right. This time, Greg used about half of his strength. A white mark appeared as he cut his arm, as the skin made contact with the blade. The armor value of the set was confirmed. It can affect the entire body of other people, greatly increasing their value, as long as I synthesize leather armor. That will be a defense of 3.5 points. By then, the blades for my villagers shouldn't be able to cause any damage at all. It seems this armor value point is still useful. In the future, any boots that drop can be saved and given to others. I was calculating in my mind. Greg, standing to the side, had a complex expression on his face. Sure enough, it was thanks to these boots. What kind of ordinary boots are these? These are clearly the magic artifacts the village elders spoke of that can protect their owner. This is much more valuable than I imagined. Am I really worthy of this divine object? Greg thought to himself. Looking at those leather boots, Greg was left without a doubt. What are these divine and intelligent leather boots? First, I must be clear. I am a clean freak. My voice rang out. Greg raised his head and realized he didn't know when he had come back to his senses. I was tilting my head, smiling and looking at him. You've already put these boots on. If I take them back now, then I'll just throw them back into that pond, which is also considered returning things to their original owner. I shrugged helplessly. And it seems you've misunderstood one thing, Greg. I stepped closer. I quietly ruffled Greg's hair and said seriously, to me, the place you hold in my heart is much more important than you imagine. After all, I don't want my first newly recruited little brother to be lost without knowing what's happening. I can't have you suddenly taken down by some insignificant extra. I'm still waiting for you to serve me tea, bring me water, run errands, and take the blame for me. I ruffled his hair so hard that Greg's entire body began to tremble. Greg was so moved that he couldn't even speak. This was the first time someone besides his parents had been so good to him. His eyes filled with tears and the words wouldn't come out. Yeah, that's about right. I'll give you a full set in the future. You're always so sentimental. Be careful, or I really might take you to experience what high-altitude free-falling feels like. And one more thing, we have water now too. Wash your hair often. You've left my hand covered in enough oil to cook with. Greg nervously raised his head to look at me. I looked back with a hunch and blinked. Clean yourself up a bit. Maybe some girl will like you, and then you'll have a wife, and I'll be able to pat your head more comfortably. Great, the boss isn't angry. Greg breathed a sigh of relief. His face turned bright red with embarrassment. He replied in a low voice, Understood, boss. Greg, I'm giving you this axe. What you have to do next is carry it for me. Just cut down that tree. I pulled out the stone axe and handed it to Greg, then took 2 steps back. So, why don't you move back a little further, boss? Greg suggested it to prevent the tree from falling and hitting me later. Ha ha ha, don't worry, this tree shouldn't fall. And even if it does fall, at most it'll make me jump and take off 1 or 2 health bars. It's no big deal. I shook my head, keeping my eyes on him. What if this tree hits you, little guy? But I don't want to hit the boss. Relax, nothing will happen. Don't forget I'm no ordinary person. This has. He smiled with his head tilted, watching me. You've already put the boots on. If you give them back now, I'll throw them back in the pond, so they return to their owner. I shrugged with resignation. And I think you're wrong about one thing, Greg. I stepped closer, silently ruffling Greg's hair, and said seriously to myself, the place you hold in my heart is much more important than you imagine. I don't want my first assistant to be suddenly eliminated by some nameless extra without even knowing why. I'm still waiting for you to bring me tea, serve me water, run errands, and take the blame for me. I ruffled his hair so hard that Greg's whole body swayed with the movement. Greg was so moved that he couldn't even speak. It was the first time someone besides his parents had been so good to him. His eyes were filled with tears, and he was speechless. Yeah, it's pretty much like that. If you keep getting this sentimental, watch out, because I'll make you practice. Falling into the water from 10,000 meters up. And one more thing, now that we have water, wash your hair more often. You've covered my hand in grease. I could practically cook with it. Greg looked up nervously to glance at me. I looked back with a premonition and blinked. Clean yourself up. Maybe some girl will notice you. You'll get a wife, and I'll be able to feel more comfortable. Good. The boss isn't angry. Greg sighed in relief, his face turning red with embarrassment as he whispered, Understood, boss. Greg, take this axe. What you have to do next is very simple. Just cut down that tree. I pulled out the stone axe and gave it to Greg, then stepped back. Why don't you move back a bit, boss? Greg suggested, so the tree wouldn't fall on me. Ha ha ha. Don't worry. This tree shouldn't fall, and even if it did, at most it would launch me into the air and take off 1 or 2 health bars. Small stuff. I shook my head, brushing it off. Besides, what if this tree hits you? But I don't want to hit the boss. Relax. Nothing will happen. Don't forget that I'm no ordinary person. This tree means nothing to me. You can cut it down with peace of mind. Greg calmed down and began to chop the tree with determination. I watched expectantly as the tree shook from the repeated blows. I am carrying out a real-life exercise for a very important experiment. Can someone other than me use these MC tools I have in my hands? Will there be a slight decrease in power or some limitation on their use? For example, maybe certain conditions must be met to use them, like with the defense equipment. Actually, I can confirm it works similarly to the game, providing full-body defense. This will determine my future development plans. After all, if I want to expand the base, I can't do it alone. Feeding 100 people by myself would kill me from exhaustion. Food is the top priority. First, I must improve the technology. As for the base, there aren't enough seeds, and they have a set growth cycle. For now, the easiest food source to obtain is through cooking. Therefore, of all the experiments, I plan to test the fishing rod. Last, to free up enough time and prevent fish from biting the hook and ending the experiment early. Getting incorrect results would be terrible. The best case scenario now is for the tree to split and drop a cubic wood block. The second best is no block, but the trunk remains suspended in the air. As for the worst, I hope it's not that. But as I watched the wood, no white cracks appeared. Instead, as the chopping continued, the gap grew larger and I had my answer. It's happening. The gap took up half the tree and the massive trunk could no longer stand. It began to wobble in the air. It's almost there. Greg walked to the other side of the gap. With one kick, boom, the entire tree fell toward the gap, kicking up dust from the ground. It seems it's the worst case scenario. Greg, even in my world, the laws of reality still apply. My thoughts faded halfway. Boss, I cut down the tree. Greg was beaming with joy and looked at me instinctively. Seeing my grim expression, he asked cautiously, did I do something wrong? No, you did great. The result just didn't meet my expectations, but this isn't something you can control, so don't blame yourself. I nodded and handed him the stone axe. Now try this next. The two of us experimented with the stone pickaxe and the stone hoe, even dropping seeds from free water blocks. Everything ended in failure. Obviously, the plan to have the villagers plant crops on their own has temporarily collapsed. Maybe I have to wait until my world expands to the village for things to change. I let Greg try fishing in the water. To increase the probability of success, I doubled the size of the pond. If this experiment succeeds, even if it takes a long time, it will be worth it. This means the food problem is solved. I just need to craft enough fishing rods, distribute them to the villagers, and let them fish for themselves. Holding a leaf in my hand, I sat cross-legged, bored, nibbling on an apple. Although there are no shears, and I can't get whole leaves, I can still pull them off by hand. One can't be too inflexible. Speaking of which, this apple tastes great. It's also quite big. I took the last bite and threw the apple core aside. I stood up and looked at the figure sitting by the water under the setting sun. I sighed. Does it really not work? Although I don't have a watch, I'm not sure of the exact time, but judging by the path of the sun, 5 or 6 hours have passed. It's also thanks to Greg being able to persist for so long. If they let me sit by the water for even half an hour without a bite, I'd have to pull up the rod to see what's happening and then go back to my apple. All right, Greg, pack up the rod. You don't need to fish anymore. I walked over to persuade him. Greg, he stared fixedly at the bobbing float. Boss, let me fish a little longer. Maybe I'll succeed. Seeing my determined attitude, Greg could only hand over the fishing rod with disappointment. There is still one thing I can try. I pulled out the composter I found earlier. It was something I discovered by accident on the crafting table out of curiosity. I thought about how this block could work, considering the materials and the horizontal placement. But it only speaks to my experience and the way things seem to perish here. I was unwilling to give up, even if the outcome was uncertain for both of us. Our expectation vanished in the blink of an eye as a few green particles appeared at the bottom. Then pop. I looked at it with a bit of excitement. I finally found something usable. By placing the plants inside, the number of compost layers kept increasing. It eventually turned into a block resembling scattered soil. Boss, I can't get it in. Greg said that if you use it again next time, you can turn the inner block into bone meal. However, Greg doesn't seem able to do this step. Try to see if you can pour this block out. Greg used all his strength, but he couldn't move the fertilizer-filled composter even a little bit. I can't. It's too heavy, Greg said, panting. So be it then, I replied. Even though the result isn't very satisfying, at least there's a safety net, right? With the composter, I can have the villagers trade bone meal for food. It's a way to solve the food problem. I looked at the sky and told Greg, it's late, go back for today. Bring your basket. This is your reward for today. Don't be polite. This grilled fish is delicious, especially the skin. I pulled the grilled fish out of my backpack and handed it to him. I stuffed it in enthusiastically. Boss, it's too much. Don't put it in. If you can't finish eating it, it will spoil, and you can't bring it back either. That's true. In fact, it is a bit too much. I look at Greg's height, and then look at the basket filled to the brim. It's almost overflowing. It'll be hard to carry back now, won't it? I took some fish out and packed it eagerly. I asked a question, and Greg lifted the basket, nodding repeatedly. It's about ready now. There are also these 2 apples. One is for you, and one is for your sister. I pulled out 2 more apples. One has a bit of a bruise. I put away the apple one just took out. Did your village chief and the villagers talk about that water source? I asked curiously. They mentioned it when I came over. I also saw many people drawing water there, so I have to go see. I've been in this world for so many days now. All I've seen are your village chief and the villagers. Just the chief, Greg's family, and these few people. Greg asked, do you need me to accompany you, boss? No, it's not necessary. I can walk there alone. The scene of the celestial phenomena from that day flashed through Greg's mind. Seeing the panicked expression on Greg's face, how could I not know what he was thinking? Relax. I'll only go as far as the water source. I won't go far off the path. Holding wheat seeds in my hand, I walk calmly along the edge of the field, whistling. Behind me, 2 chickens flap at the gate and find their wings, following me clumsily. Their eyes are fixed on the wheat. I tell Greg, you don't have to stare at those 2 chickens the whole time. Relax, they won't escape. I say this to Greg, who is constantly looking back, worried that the chickens will run away. And maybe if you don't look back, in a little while you might have 2 or 3 more. Maybe, boss, these 2 chickens will stay with you. Don't you need them to hatch chicks? It's not necessary. I only need to hatch 2. These chickens grow very fast. In 2 or 3 days, they can grow and hatch chicks. Besides, your mother just recovered. Take these 2 chickens back. The eggs they lay can also strengthen your mother's body. Greg shook his head quickly and said in a low voice, we don't eat these eggs. We'll wait to gather a certain amount, and my father will take them to the city to sell. My mother isn't willing to eat them either. Even if she boils them, she leaves them for my father. If an eggshell breaks, my father will still save them for us. However, at that moment, I heard an uproar coming from up ahead. How lively. Humans are social animals after all. I haven't given up on the world, so naturally, I like the excitement. Hearing the commotion, I unconsciously quickened my pace. When I arrived at the spot, the scene that appeared before my eyes made my brain freeze instantly. What is going on here? The crowd was split into 2 groups, one led by an old woman, composed mainly of the elderly and children. A large crowd of people knelt on the ground, looking in my direction, with several incense sticks planted in front of them. They placed chicken and tofu, some dried fruits and fruits I don't recognize, while muttering something. The other group was led by Big Dan, composed of strong men. The number of those men was very small, and their expressions were very uncomfortable, wanting to join the kneeling crowd. It's worth mentioning that Leo also knelt down, and the big guy, Leo Jr., was standing behind his father, while the gossips Paul and Sarah stood to the side with shaking pity. Everyone said that Lord Arthur doesn't like it when others kneel. Why won't they listen? Using my enhanced hearing, I overheard what Sarah and Paul were saying. I roughly guessed the cause of all this. These people are worshipping me like a god. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I've knelt before ancestors since childhood, but I never expected someone to burn incense for me before I'm even dead. I felt someone watching me. It was Paul, summoning some courage in his heart. He raised his head and locked eyes with me. At this moment, the scene before me truly left me speechless. My expression was just blank. But in Paul's eyes, the kind and affectionate Lord Arthur was expressionless. Obviously dissatisfied. Oh no, my God, Lord Arthur can really see us. Isn't he coming this way? Looking at Lord Arthur's expression, could he be angry with me? He said he doesn't like others kneeling, but I didn't handle it well. If he returns to heaven because of this, then he is the only one to blame. He isn't as familiar with my personality as Greg is. Those are the warnings the heavenly God gave to this village chief. But I failed and let Lord Arthur come out in person. I've heard an emperor's wrath leaves millions of corpses, but a lord's wrath destroys the world. Paul's eyes grew dark, and he was about to collapse backward. Finally, under heavy pressure, he couldn't worry about anything else. He knelt down heavily. The commoner Paul welcomes the protector of the city. The mountain fairy has emerged. Hearing what Paul said, the bodies of the kneeling people trembled, and they pressed their heads firmly to the ground. Some of the bravest ones slowly raised their heads to steal a glance, then quickly looked down again. That is Lord Arthur. Why doesn't he look as big as my son? He is quite handsome, but he doesn't look like a god. One of the old women saw my appearance, and the surprise and doubt in her heart faded away significantly. She lowered her head and whispered to the others, I simply see that he looks like a young master from some family, looking scholarly all over. Could it be that the star of literature has descended to Earth? Don't say anything. The god is watching. We're so far away. He shouldn't be able to hear us, right? I'm sorry, but I hear everything clearly. She basically shouted in my ear. I thought to myself, Village Chief, I'm really not a god. There's no need for you to kneel. Stand up. I'm not a god. So, should we kneel or stay standing? The villagers looked at Paul, waiting for him to make a decision. He stood up, and everyone else stood up with him. When the villagers stood up, I inhaled sharply. Before they were kneeling, and thin clothes covered their bodies. But now that they're standing, I can clearly see that every villager in front of me is emaciated, with legs as thin as broomsticks. Through the open collars of their clothes, you can almost see the bone, and you can count the ribs on their chests one by one. I even suspect that if the wind blew a little harder, these people would be knocked over, although I already thought the situation was very serious. This is no different from people in war-torn countries. This is famine. I pulled a wooden board out of thin air without a sound and placed it on the ground. Where did I get this wooden board? When the villagers saw the board appear out of nowhere, the sound of discussion vanished instantly without a trace. Oh right, others say they aren't gods. That is a god's humility. How could we believe him so blindly? At this moment, all the villagers remained in total silence, not daring to make even a single sound. Their bodies suddenly tensed up. They stood straight under the scorching sun. Sweat ran down their foreheads and into their eyes, but no one dared to wipe it away. What is the Lord going to do? I quickly built a platform 4 meters wide. I asked the village chief, Paul, tell me, how many families are in the village? How many people are there in total? 14 families, a total of 54 people. I pulled 14 grilled fish from my space and placed them on the platform. They were all half a meter long, filling the entire platform. It's fish, real fish. Where did such huge fish come from? Since the lake stopped flowing, they haven't seen fish in ages. Not even finger-sized minnows. Gasps of shock echoed one after another. The villagers couldn't stop swallowing, their Adam's apples bobbing as they stared at the fish. They were smiling stupidly. Just one of these fish, if eaten sparingly with roots and greens, could last them half a month. My children can finally eat some fat. I said, I'm giving these fish to the village chief to distribute. Make sure every household receives 1 fish. From now on, every day at this time, I will place the same amount of fish here. These are for us. We have food for the future. That means we won't go hungry. In this moment, my voice sounds like heavenly music. It strikes directly at everyone's heart. They want to laugh and cry, but the God is watching. They don't want to lose their composure in front of me. They fear I might abandon them. Are these really all for us? Just as everyone was immersed in the moment. In the middle of the joy, Robert stood up and asked a question. Just as I was about to say this was free and they didn't need anything, I saw the worry on Robert's face. He's afraid that the villagers will get used to this kind of dependency, just waiting to be fed. One day, my wonder will fade once I stop the supply. What I'll get won't be understanding, but insults. I swallowed the words that were about to come out of my mouth. I thought for a moment, shook my head, and spoke. Of course, this is only temporary. Until your crops recover, and it won't be given for free. I made 7 compost bins and placed them side by side at the edge of the platform. What you have to do next is fill these buckets with leaves and other plants. Sam will give you the details later. You don't have to give me today's portion. This place is already at the edge of my world. The weeds and leaves for the buckets are everywhere, so they're still easy to collect. This way, the synthetic flour can also generate enough wheat seeds once the range covers the village. The seeds are almost enough to feed the people here. The villagers are grateful for my request. These are fish half a meter long. 7 boxes are nothing, even if the work doubled. We are willing. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. The villagers knelt again and slammed their heads hard toward me. The sound was deafening. It even scared the birds resting in the trees. I already said I'm not a god. I feel completely helpless in my heart. I'm so embarrassed I want to crawl into a hole and hide. I told Sam to go back, and I returned alone and in silence to the forest. The sight of these people with snot and tears running down their faces, thinking about the suffering they've endured. They are suffering and need an outlet to vent. As I walked away, the villagers' emotions could no longer be contained, and the scene turned chaotic. I was still immersed in the memories. Great, there's food. My children finally won't have to go hungry. My 2nd and 4th sons, your lives were so hard. If only you had held on a little longer, you could have waited for the immortal Lord. Some gestured and thanked me repeatedly, while others laughed and then suddenly burst into tears. When the emotions calmed, Robert still hadn't recovered from the shock. All right, countrymen, today is a day of great joy. Everyone move. Take this fish home to cook. Your families are waiting. Over the next few days, I spent almost all day fishing by the pond. At dusk, I carried the fish to the water source to collect bone meal from the compost bins. At night, I used the bone meal to ripen the wheat, harvest it, and obtain seeds and wheat. Most importantly, I gained experience points, then started fishing frantically through the night. Under this high-intensity operation, my experience points skyrocketed. It wasn't long before I leveled up again, and more than half the night had passed. I only need 1 more level to cover the village. If I'm not mistaken, it will happen in the next 2 or 3 days. Sam, if any changes occur in the village in the coming days, don't let them panic. Tell them it's because of me, understood? Sam looked at me with concern. I looked exhausted. These days, aside from the beginning when I asked him to help with what I called an experiment, he just sat on the bank while I fished. This fishing lasted all day. and all he could do was sit quietly by my side. He chatted about the gossip that had happened in the village lately. Sam advised me to go rest, but he refused. After all, the only thing I can do for you now is stay by your side. I nodded. I prepared to return to my small hut. Now, I just want to run home as soon as possible. Several pickled fish hang from the eaves of the humble cabin, and the fragrance of fish soup wafts from inside. At this moment, Elena is busy preparing dinner. After leaving my house, they took Elena to her mother. As a result, the illness has completely recovered, but her body is still very weak. After a few days of recovery, Elena was able to get out of bed. Originally, she planned to go straight to the fields to help, but at Daniel's strong insistence, she did some simple housework. Gavin looked around and didn't see his father's shadow. At this hour, Dad should have returned from the fields, right? Mother, has Dad not returned yet? Gavin asked doubtfully. Well, it wasn't long after you left. The fourth uncle called him and told him no. Elena said he was called to help the village chief and hasn't returned yet. Go see if he's there. It's almost time to eat. Why hasn't he come back? He walked near the door of the village chief's house. Gavin saw 1 or 2 villagers carrying furniture into the chief's house. There was noise inside the building. Occasionally, he heard the sound of heavy objects moving. What's going on inside? Gavin was surprised. He entered and saw that the village elders were crowded into this small room. As for Barney, he stood in the middle of the house, constantly directing. A little more to the left. Hey, little more to the right. Good, like that. Village chief, what are you doing? If I'm not mistaken, isn't this chair Uncle Ben's treasure? He values that old thing so much. Why did you bring it here? And this bowl? Village chief, did you hypnotize them? Of course not. I'm not that capable. Barney smiled. He walked to the door and touched the frame, his eyes full of reluctance. I'm just discussing it with the others. They're living in the village house now. Opening this house and leaving it for the first monarch, leaving it for the boss. I couldn't understand it. Yes, it's the only decent place in the village. It's my old house. It's a blessing for us that the first monarch comes to our village to rest. We can't let the first monarch sleep with us. I didn't expect word to spread and everyone brought their things, but I know the boss very well. He definitely won't move in. I shook my head and said directly, if that's the case, I'm afraid this house will just sit empty. Here, Barney said seriously, whether he lives here or not is one thing, but whether we do it is another matter. In short, the house is already empty and everyone brought their things. We can't ask them to take them back, right? I turned my head to look at everyone. They all shook their heads, smiling. All the things have been brought. It's killing me. I don't want to move again. Sam said that if anyone dares to take these things in secret, she'll break their legs. It's just some wooden things. How can they compare to the things that have been brought? You can't compare them with the kindness of the first monarch. Everyone agrees, right? Right. Oh, I've been village chief for so long. I've never seen them so active. Normally, when they hear there's work, they run faster than rabbits. Barney planned to head back when someone said with a tough smile, my village chief, if you had half the power of the Lord Immortal, you could order Gozen around however you liked. He'd even clean your latrine every day. Everyone burst out laughing. Barney looked with satisfaction at this prosperous scene unfolding before him. How many years had it been since the village's food production began to decline year after year? Even the river dried up. How long since I'd seen everyone smile so happily? This is all thanks to the immortal Lord. Gozen, looking for your father? He's in the back. Barney pointed the way, gesturing for Gozen to go find him. Gozen, why are you here? It's getting late. My mother asked me to come call you for dinner. Daniel looked up at the sky and slapped his forehead. Damn, I lost track of the time. Let's go, let's head back. Father, I want to keep practicing. I want to protect the boss. Gozen spoke firmly. Ever since the river dried up and the village food supply dwindled day by day, to save food and reduce physical exertion, Gozen had lost all interest in training. He used that as an excuse. He refused to practice. Seeing his son willing to continue his legacy, the father was naturally happy. But does the immortal really need mortals to protect him? Daniel wondered. Still, he nodded. Fine, tomorrow we start. Again, the next day, in the village, a group of people gathered around the front of Barney's house. They were all talking at once. Are you saying the people from Zhang village came here to steal things? Barney frowned and asked in confusion. That's right. Fortunately, the kid from the Lau family saw him. Otherwise, my family's fish would have been stolen by that person. The people around him supported him with indignation. The people from Zhang village are way too aggressive. Usually, the people from Zhang village compete with us for water and land, but now they even come directly to our village to steal things. Yes, this is the fish the immortal Lord gave us. Even though we got it back, we can't let this insult slide, Chief. We must make the people of Zhang village hand that person over. At worst, we'll fight with them again. I'm still furious from last time. Chief, tell us, when are we going to strike back? The crowd pressed in, ready for a fight. There's no need to go. They'll come looking for us themselves. Barney thought for a moment and slowly shook his head. Most of the people suddenly understood. They understood what the village chief meant. If the people from Zhang village arrived later, they had to let him know as soon as possible. Until then, don't argue with them, Barney said. I felt a bit of worry in my heart. After all, the feud between the two villages was far too deep. I worried the villagers wouldn't be able to stop themselves from fighting. However, what Barney didn't expect was that no one in the room opposed him. They just nodded in silence. He thought about it again and immediately understood. Isn't this Zhang village just a smaller version of the old Lu village? Meanwhile, Zhang walked anxiously near the village entrance, looking up from time to time toward Lu village. Around him was also a group of anxious villagers. After hearing about the situation in Lu village from Young, at first he didn't believe it. Knowing Young, he felt very worried. He didn't know if Lu village was in their territory or vice versa, but from others, he learned that the people from Lu village were chasing him all the way to the village. Originally, Zack didn't want the people in the village to know before confirming things, but not long after he left, Young spread the word throughout the village. Everyone ran toward him to confirm the situation. Zack had no choice but to call the most agile people from the village to go to Lu village and investigate. Who would have thought they'd take so long to return? This worried Zack deeply. Why haven't they come back yet? How much time has passed? Could the people of Lu village have discovered them? Zack felt a bit of regret in his heart, and looking at the carefree Young beside him, he felt more and more disgusted. Originally, he only needed to find a few people in secret to go to Lu village and take a look. If there was nothing there at most, only the few who knew would be disappointed. Now that everyone knows, the whole village knows, I shouldn't have believed the lies of that man. Young spoke up. The groundwater near here has almost dried up. Where would we get water to? Raise fish, village chief. Although I'm usually a bit casual on important matters like this, I would never dare lie to you, elder. Besides, if this is fake, aren't I right here without leaving? At that point, whether you kill me or let me live is up to you. Young said, indifferently kicking stones on the ground. They're here. They've returned. Behind him, voices rose from the crowd. Zack squinted into the distance. Sure enough, he saw a figure staggering toward them. How was it? Before the man could even rest for a moment, many surrounded him. Fish, so many fish. The man, leaning over, said with difficulty, almost every family in Lu village has fish, half an arm long. What Young said is true. Young said, see, didn't I tell you? Their village has definitely diverted the water to a place it shouldn't go. We can't find it. Naturally, he doesn't know if the water was intercepted by the people of Lu village. But now, who cares? I'm just looking for an excuse to give the villagers. Even if the truth comes out in the end, no one will blame me, Young thought. The people of Lu village are too abusive. The surrounding crowd shouted. With fury, exactly. We must go find them. I simply reflected with a serious face. Yes, village chief, you don't know what I did to verify my theory. I was almost caught by the Lu villagers and beaten. They just don't want our village to do well. Young, with a bitter expression on his face, recounted the treatment he received, adding fuel to the fire. I was very happy in my heart. I had let the whole village know about this earlier just to achieve this situation. Now everything is moving at my pace. No matter how much the chief feels something is wrong, it's useless. Exactly. They didn't just cut off our water supply. They even almost beat one of our own. We must demand an explanation from them. Indeed, amidst the protests of the crowd, Zack said helplessly. In that case, let's do as everyone says. But we'll wait until tomorrow. It's getting late today. It's also good to recover our energy, right? Young and the crowd agreed. They listed the faults of Lu village and returned to their own homes. My face changed instantly. A smile of satisfaction spread across my face. My goal had been achieved. By mid-afternoon, at the intersection of the two towns, on a slope full of yellow sand, more than 10 people from Lu village were already there, yawning. How boring. We've been here almost all afternoon. Why hasn't the people from Zack's village arrived yet? You should be happy. It could have been worse. We could have been on guard duty at dawn. Don't get distracted. Hold on a little longer. Someone will come to relieve us soon. One of them said with a smile, without looking away from the distance. His expression suddenly turned serious. Quick, go find the others. Hurry. The people from Zack's village are coming. Fine, I'm going right now. You guys be careful, he said. One of them stood up with all his strength and ran toward the village. In the distance, the people from Zack's village, all with grim faces, carried various farming tools. The blades gleamed under the sun, very sharp, obviously fresh off the whetstone. Before coming, they had planned to fight to the death, even if it meant casualties. After all, this time is completely different from before. Everyone knows it very well. They've come to take water. In a drought year, stealing water means death. But if they don't get more water, their village will also become a frog boiling over a slow fire, sooner or later. Today, they either get a share of the water, or one of the two villages won't be able to stand back up. Hey, people from Zack's village, stop right there. I know what your purpose is. Isn't it for the water? Wait there. We'll bring you water right away, the villagers shouted. I didn't hear wrong. The people from Lu village are actually offering to bring us water. The people from Zack's village stopped, their faces full of confusion. They had anticipated many scenarios, but they didn't know how to handle this situation. Do we keep fighting? It's not just a water problem. Even though Young is a bastard, at least he's one of our own. We have to demand justice for him. The people from Zack's village discussed it and then sent someone with a loud voice to repeat their demands. A man from the Lu village clapped his hands and spoke furiously. It's clear that people from your village came to steal things from ours. And now you're accusing us? Besides, when did we ever cut off your water supply? That water was granted to us by the immortal. Damn it, I knew it. That bastard Young was hiding something. It turns out he went to steal from another village. I'm dying of shame. Hearing this, the momentum of the people from Zack's village largely died out. Stealing is stealing. After all, it's a shameful thing. Would your village really be so kind-hearted? Who knows if your water is poisoned? So much nonsense. An ungrateful reaction to a good deed. Take it or leave it. If you don't want it, we fight. Someone from the Lu village couldn't hold back any longer. He stepped forward with a farming tool in hand, eyes wide, cursing at them. Get back. Have you forgotten what the village chief ordered us to do? Don't start a conflict. The people nearby rushed to pull him back. It's not that I can't control my anger. I just answered him. First, they twisted the facts by saying we cut off their water. The man said, backing away honestly. At this point, the people from Zach's village were clueless and all looked at Zach, who stood at the front. Was it Bob who told you to say that? Zach asked. That's right. Zach nodded his head, understanding. Turning to his people, he said, in that case, let's wait a little while. Let's see what they want to do. We know Zach and the Lu village chief have a good relationship, but this is a serious matter. We can't afford to act recklessly. There's some confusion in the group. I know what you're thinking, I continued. You want to take advantage of their small numbers and attack right now. But look at the people from Miller Village. Even though they are few, they are full of energy. If we fight, we're the ones who will lose. To keep his people steady, Zach leaned on his staff and waited in silence. The two groups faced off as the minutes ticked by. About 10 minutes passed. I saw the Miller Village men returning, poles over their shoulders, carrying 2 buckets each. Every bucket was filled to the brim with water, likely because they had rushed so much. The water sloshed around, spilling out bit by bit as Zach's people watched the scene. They brought all the water and placed it in front of Zach. Is all this for us? Suppressing his joy, Zach asked with a trembling voice as Bill approached him. Yes, Bill nodded and then spoke. Use this water first. Then, bring 2 decision-makers with me. I'll take you to the source. You're taking us to the source? Doesn't your village have any objections? Zach looked at Bill in surprise. Aren't you worried there won't be enough water for both villages? Don't worry. This is what our village decided together regarding the water. There will be plenty. You'll understand once you see the place. Zach had his people take the water and some fish back, but he didn't notice anything was missing. He took 2 of the most respected men from Zach's village and followed them. Following Bill, Zach and Bill walked side by side in a silent understanding. The 2 men from Zach's village kept a steady distance, neither too close nor too far. They followed behind in silence, the first time since the conflict between the villages began. It had been a long time since they walked like this, even with 1,000 things to say. Neither knew how to start the conversation. Who is this immortal? Zach asked the question, and Bill looked at him with a meaningful gaze. Brother Zach, if I told you he is a god, would you believe me? I see. Zach nodded, visibly shaken by the thought. Now I understand. No wonder your people are willing to give us water. Do you believe it? Bill was a bit surprised. He had already planned his next moves. He expected Zach to doubt him until he saw the endless water source, and his worldview collapsed. Who would have thought he'd believe it outright? It makes sense, given the circumstances. Considering the long-standing grievances between our 2 villages, your people agreeing to take us to the water source here is unheard of. This matter itself is absurd, unless there is something even more absurd forcing you to make such a choice. If a god has descended, then everything becomes reasonable. You should hide those fish, Zach suggested suddenly. Bill asked in confusion, what's wrong? Zach looked at Bill with doubt. Haven't your people heard? The corrupt official, Governor Reed, has sent his men out. They are at the village entrance to seize water and demand extra taxes. If they can't pay, they'll beat the people to death. Supplies from several villages have been stolen constantly these past few days. My people have been focused on the immortal's arrival, so no one went to town. Naturally, we hadn't heard. Bill was shocked to hear this. He asked in disbelief, didn't we just pay taxes? It hasn't even been a few days, and they're back. Do they want us to live or not? Zach nodded heavily. After they saw the water source and were about to head back, a man from Bill's village rushed toward him. He glared furiously at the 3 people from Zach's village and spoke. Bad news, Chief. Our village's supplies have been stolen again, and your front doors were forced open. Everything inside is likely gone. What? My heart sank. Bill's face turned pale instantly. He stiffly turned his head and looked at Zach with pure disappointment. Brother Zach, so this was your plan. His house was where the villagers spent all their energy. It was specially reserved for the immortal. Since the house was prepared, the villagers sent someone to clean it every single day. Anyone who entered was incredibly careful and left immediately after finishing their work. No, this definitely wasn't my idea, Zach stammered. Besides, basically everyone from my village is right here. How could they have time to steal? Zach frowned and shook his head. Suddenly, a figure appeared. Even though the situation was chaotic, a sense of panic began to spread through the crowd. I called for order, sensing that the tension was reaching a breaking point right here. I arranged the men, keeping the conflict from boiling over so we could find a way forward for everyone. I put a hand on his shoulder, struggling to maintain control as the situation threatened to slip away. They cut the power and disconnected the lights from inside the house. Don't worry, the people of our village will compensate you double for everything. I should have sent someone to watch the house more closely. It's not about the things, Bill sighed repeatedly. This house is the residence that our village prepared for the immortal, but now others have ransacked it. Zach was shocked. How could he not understand? If this residence was meant for the gods of heaven, even if nothing was actually broken, the simple fact that it was robbed is serious enough. Even if they sold the whole village, they couldn't afford to pay. What should we do? Damn it, I'll escort him here immediately. Let them do whatever they want with him. Upon hearing this, one of the men who was following him took off. The people from Zach's village couldn't sit still and ran straight back toward their village. Then he saw that bucket of water floating in the air, with water flowing endlessly. He already knew that his village was in debt to the others. Not to mention that Bill wouldn't let them come for water casually, even though he promised to give them a portion of the remaining share provided by the god. The old village chief was feeling deeply ashamed. He didn't know how to face the people of Bill's village anymore. As a result, in the blink of an eye, everything changed. His people robbed the village that was giving them water and food from the god's own dwelling. This is clearly dragging his village's reputation through the mud. Ashamed, another man looked at his departing companion and then at his chief. He stopped. I'll go to your village. After all, our people caused this problem. If I leave too, you won't be able to explain anything to the villagers. Zack spoke up, with Bill leading the way. Bill understood his old friend's character. If he didn't lead the way, he feared Zack would go alone. Besides, this situation really required Zack's village to have someone prestigious present to stabilize the people. Fine, let's go. How much food? Now there was no need to worry about the 7-day supply. Victor, left the snails in the cup. I took the fish out and placed them on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait a moment, I'll take out 2 more for the villagers. When Bill's people arrive, there's no need to be afraid. Before I could celebrate for long, there was a noise outside the door. The footsteps grew louder, and then my door was kicked open. Hey, what are you doing? My door. I shrunk back in fear. I saw the newcomer looking at me, and then at the fish in my hand. I realized suddenly, he's here for a share of the loot. I quickly hugged a large fish, smiling grimly. This is the fish I took from Bill's village. How about I give you one? It didn't matter what I said. Once I spoke, that man became even angrier. He pushed me aside and loaded all the fish onto his back. Have 2 people come and take this back to Bill's village. He shouted to the people standing outside the door. Seeing the fish on the table, the onlookers also guessed the reason for the incident. This guy, Victor, while everyone else was arguing with the people, went off to steal things from another village. His own village chief hasn't returned. He must have stayed behind in Miller Village. Soon after, 2 men came out, dragging Victor and following the leader toward Miller Village. Is it not just fish? I don't want it. Can't I just give it all back? Please, don't send me to Miller Village. Victor screamed the whole way, annoying the leader until a direct punch hit his stomach. This is a bargain for you. Normally, getting into a little trouble is fine, but this time, no one can save you. Victor felt the pain, stood up, and never dared to speak another word. Worried that their village chief would be reprimanded, they walked very fast and soon arrived at Miller Village. The people of your village can do whatever they want, of course. This time it's our village's fault. Any other requests you have, just ask. The people of Miller Village saw them and hated them so much they gnashed their teeth, but they didn't dare hit anyone. There are gods 3 feet above their heads. After all, Marcus might be watching them. They didn't dare show their teeth or be cruel, even to a thief. Zack understood the situation perfectly when he saw this. He stood up and spoke. So, from now on, Victor is no longer part of our village. What do you think of this punishment? No, Chief, you can't do this. Victor looked at Zack with pure desperation. Seeing Zack's firm expression, it was clear he wasn't joking. If I left the village, I simply couldn't survive. This is worse than killing me outright. I wept with a bitter face. He slapped himself frantically and beat his own chest. He slammed his head down hard to beg for mercy. Chief, Uncle, I was wrong. Don't kick me out. I'll never do it again. Please, just beat me instead. If that's not enough, I'll give up my right hand. Is that okay? He tried to crawl toward Zack to beg for mercy, but the other villagers held him firmly in place. Zack's gaze never landed on him. He only looked at the Miller Village chief, William. William looked back and saw his people were starting to calm down. He sat on the ground, full of regret, and accepted the suggestion. It was settled, but Victor felt a deep, soul-crushing regret. He had screamed and shouted with all his might, but now, it was all over. From now on, his village would no longer be his home. He wouldn't even be allowed into the ancestral tomb after death. He was homeless. It's not that we won't pay taxes. It hasn't rained in months. The crops produce nothing. We truly have no money or food. We can't pay. The old man knelt on the ground, pleading with the tax collector standing before him. The tax collector kicked him directly to the ground and sneered. I don't care about droughts or locust plagues. As long as there are people in this village, you must pay. If you don't pay, you're rebels. Since you won't give it up willingly, we'll take it. What are you waiting for? Search every house. Behind him, the other 2 tax collectors remained expressionless. They rushed into the homes of the village. The men pulled out the machetes at their waists and tore open storage sacks. They kicked down doors, missing no corner, searching every inch carefully. Before long, they found a small bag of mixed rice hidden in a cellar. You said you had no food? Then what is this? The lead tax collector held the small bag of mixed rice and glared fiercely at the villagers. Your people are very bold. You dare to hide food? What's the matter with you? Do you want me to invite you to sit in a jail cell? He approached the villagers with a terrifying expression. The anger I had been suppressing in my heart finally eased a little bit. It was because these despicable people refused to cooperate with us. They refused to pay, so the secretary scolded me. Keep searching. I want to see what else they've hidden. But after that, no matter how hard they searched, they found nothing else. Is this all your food? The leader asked. It's our village's lifeline, sir. You can't take it. Otherwise, the village will have nothing. No way to survive. The old man wept and trembled.